Season 37 of the Motul FIM Superbike World Championship. Over the course of 8 months, we will visit 12 different countries for 12 different rounds, 36 races to settle the title. And it all kicks off this afternoon at the tourist hotspot of Phillip Island, just a 2-hour drive from Melbourne Airport for the 2024 Graham Ridge Brewery Australian Rounds. 32 visits and 67 races, the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit holds the World SBK record since it debuted on the calendar in 1990. We've only missed 93 and 2021, the latter due to the global pandemic. That's because it's such a popular venue. Over 50,000 regularly attracted to the circuit, and fans love the television spectacle of the fastest track of the year. A classic 50s style strip, only 16 seconds per lap on the brakes and just 7 braking zones. The 3 biggest are our overtaking hotspots. Turn 1, the longest braking zone at the end of the 850-metre Gardner Straight, where top speeds reach 333 kilometres per hour. Miller Corner, the slowest on the circuit. First gear, little more than 60 kph, and a wide racing line that leaves the door open to a block pass. And turn 10, pass for the lead here in 2023. Jonathan Rea against Alvaro Bautista on the way down from the famous Lukey Heights. From there, 2 high-speed left-handers that have a major impact on tyre wear, only exacerbated by new asphalt, with high grip conditions offering the opportunity for a new race lap record this weekend. Alvaro Bautista bids to become the first Ducati rider to win 3 consecutive Superbike World Championships. His 2 main rivals have moved teams and manufacturers to try and stop him. This is 2024. 2 new venues on the calendar this year. We head to Balaton Park in August for the first Hungarian round since 1990. Cremona replaces Imola to host the Italian round in September. 11 European weekends. Australia is the odd one out. For the 16th time in the championship's history, the season begins on Phillip Island. Only 118 days since our last race, but our 5 manufacturers have had a busy winter of testing, culminating here on Monday and Tuesday before Friday practice and this morning's Superpole. Only now do the lights go out for the first time in 2024. Race 1 of the Graham Ridge Brewery Australian Round, always hotly anticipated, but perhaps this year even more so. 2 of our 3 most recent world champions have moved teams during the winter. Toprak Razgatlioglu departs Yamaha as statistically their most successful ever. He moves to BMW. World SBK's greatest of all time, Jonathan Rea, replaces him after departing Kawasaki. Steve English alongside me, those 2 race debuts, the most anticipated of many, many exciting stories at the top of the year.
Yeah, that's the one thing. If you look all the way down the field, everyone always has a story to tell, but it's very rare that they've got big stories to tell. But the Razgatlioglu move to BMW, that's the biggest story, because that's what set in motion Jonathan Rea to Yamaha as well. If Toprak doesn't leave, Jonathan doesn't leave as well. And to see the BMW so competitive, it's a bit of a surprise, but not on the basis of what we've seen all the way through the winter. Toprak and BMW have made big progress. For Jonathan Rea on the Yamaha, there's progress that needs to be made, and it will be made. But right now, you have to say, everyone is full of excitement for what's going to happen over the course of this 20-lap race.
As we see Nicolo Bolliger, the man who gave Ducati their first Supersport World Championship in 2023. His reward, promotion into the Superbike class on factory machinery. Took his first Supersport race win here in Phillip Island last season. Immediately followed it up with another in race 2. The first of 16 victories in 24 races on his way to the title. Dominant force in the Supersport class.
Yeah, he's not going to have to wait until the 2nd year to win in the Superbike class, it certainly looks like. And he mightn't have to wait more than an hour for that as well, because Bolliger has been fast all the way through this weekend. Obviously, the pole position shows us 1-lap speed today, but all the way through the winter, Jerez, Portimao, here earlier in the week, he's been right up there at the sharp end, and he's giving himself that opportunity to win on his debut, which doesn't happen too often in any class.
Andrea Iannone, the other big newcomer and high-performing rookie in the Superbike World Championship, must be feeling the nerves ahead of his first outing since the end of 2019, when he received that much-publicised anti-doping ban. There's no doubting his talent, but it is such a long time since he finished MotoGP World number 5 in 2015 and won that 2016 Austrian Grand Prix.
He's got no nerves. He's just excited. You can see that big smile. It's a wonder he managed to get his helmet on even. So Iannone is ready to go.
Alex Lowes, the former British champion, third in the world with Yamaha in 2019, but he was only 11th in the rankings last year with just one podium, his worst since 2016. Now paired with crew chief Perariba, who has masterminded Jonathan Ray's 6 world titles. Surely the only way is up for Alex Lowes.
Yeah, shoulder injuries in the past, knee injuries last year. They've all added up and really taken its toll on Lowes over those last few seasons. That's why he ended up so far down the order in the championship standings last year in particular. But for him, the change to working with Perariba, you can't argue with what we've seen so far through the course of the winter into this weekend. It looks like they've made a step. Kawasaki obviously have upgrades to the bike as well, which are going to help. But for Lowes, it's about trying to convert that front row into a podium, start the season strong. But realistically, for a lot of the riders in this race, they're looking at it for what can I do over the course of this full weekend? Is it top 7 finishes in all 3 races, top 5 finishes in all 3 races, or trying to win a race and get some podiums?
Reigning world champion there, we saw Alvaro Bautista. This is Toprak Razgatlioglu now making his way out of pit lane. This is his debut with BMW after 4 seasons with Yamaha that saw him claim only their 2nd world title in 2021 and subsequently break the manufacturer's records with 100 podiums, including 37 wins. He was the first big signing for 2024. It was announced in May of last year, and Razgatlioglu with the tough task of trying to become BMW's first world champion.
Yeah, and for Toprak, at the time, obviously everyone sees the Euro signs and the money that's coming on offer from Munich to entice Toprak, but he was able to see the effort they wanted to put into that program. Big effort from BMW with a new test team for this year and trying to give them the opportunity to make a step forward. Middle of the 2nd row of the grid, you're not going to be too surprised if Toprak leads in the early stages of this one.
Time to talk about the championship's biggest ever transfer, Jonathan Ray, making his way to the starting line, but he will be coming all the way back from 11th position. A very unusual look for a superbike grid. We haven't had a front row without Ray, Razgatlioglu or Bautista since 2018. Nicolo Bulliger stunned on his superbike debut, taking pole and a first sub 1 minute 28 lap of Phillip Island, and a first rookie 1-2 with Andrea Iannone finishing 0.2 of a second behind him. First of the established stars, Alex Lowes completes the front row for KRT. Dominic Egerter back at the venue where he debuted a year ago with the front row start. This time takes P4 ahead of Andrea Locatelli, who's led the Yamahas for much of this weekend. Toprak Razgatlioglu on his BMW debut is between them. Birthday boy Remy Gardner, Sam Lowes bouncing back from an FP3 smash, and Alvaro Bautista, the Phillip Island master of the off the front row of the grid for the first time in 4 Super Poles here with Ducati. P9 for him. Jonathan Ray down in P11, his worst Phillip Island Super Pole since 2011. Axel Bassani, a second slower than his teammates in 15th, has work to do on his Kawasaki debut. Michael Vandermark survived a Super Pole crash to take 16th. Scott Redding alarmingly 0.6 of a second behind him in P19, and the MIE Hondas round out the field. It's 22 riders for race 1, and we're working our way up now towards the front of the grid. But as I said there, a very unusual look to the starting order compared to what we've become accustomed to over the last few years.
Yeah, and it's exciting though all the same. We've seen the top 3 be just dominant really over the last few years. Bautista obviously a double world champion in the last 2 seasons. Toprak the year before that, Ray the year before that. But to have big changes like this, it just generates even a little bit more of a buzz, and everyone's already being excited enough coming into this season.
Let's then take a look at that grid in full, starting with P1, Nicolo Bulliger, long considered a star of the future. He was 2015 Moto3 Junior World Champion at the age of 17, had a successful 2016 as well before rather fading in the Grand Prix paddock. 2 seasons with Aruba in Supersport have revitalised his career. He scored over 500 points to take the Supersport Series in 2023.
Yeah, there were some big issues for him during his Grand Prix career on a personal level, and it took its toll. And then you start moving further down the grid from front-running teams, and it gets harder and harder. But since he came to the Supersport class, he was able to rebuild himself. Last year, dominant champion in the Supersport class, and he's been able to adapt very well to a superbike.
Andrea Iannone, best known perhaps in Phillip Island for his 2015 Seagull headbutt, but he's been a podium finisher here in Moto2 and MotoGP. 4 years out of racing for him, but at the age of 34, has a wealth of experience to call upon. Made his Grand Prix debut in 2005, won 8 Moto2 races before stepping up to the Premier class as far ago as 2013.
Yeah, he was fast here in the Aprilia as well, led the race here on that MotoGP bike, so we know how good he is around this place. He was able to tow himself behind Domi Aguilar, and that's what gave him a little bit of extra performance on his Super Pole lap. But either way, he's been fast all the way through this week, regularly up inside the top 6 really, and has had good consistent pace, so he's going to be right there all the way through this one.
Completing the front row of the grid and just coming into position now, Alex Lowes, who becomes here only the 4th rider to reach 120 race starts for Kawasaki. This now his 4th season in green, and now as their most senior rider as well, following Jonathan Ray's departure. Remember, Lowes won on his debut with KRT here in Phillip Island in 2020. That remains his most recent race victory.
Yeah, and he can challenge at the front in this one as well. He's going to have grip all the way through. With the tyre change means that Kawasaki are going to be strong in this one. Lowes at really consistent pace this week. He certainly is going to view it that this is an opportunity, but it's about trying to make sure you avoid mistakes. You come away with good finishes in all 3 races.
Nicolo Bulliger, the first rider since Ben Spies in 2009 to post the pole lap on his debut. We all remember how that season ended with the American as world champion. 36 races still to come, but Bulliger already in exalted company and overshadowing the double world champion as his teammate on his debut. Really is off to a scorching start.
Yeah, and he's been so fast all the way through the winter, but it's different when you get into that heat of the battle. He's been able to back it up at the start of this weekend. Now he needs to do it in the race.
Second row of the grid, Dominic Egerter, Toprak Razgatlioglu and Andrea Locatelli. Egerter, a race winner here in 2022 on his way to back-to-back Supersport titles. Also won the Moto E crown before making his Superbike debut in Phillip Island last season. Few would have predicted how he would hit the ground running. He was 3rd in his first Superpole here, ultimately finished 8th in the championship.
Yeah, and for Domi, this is a track he goes very well. It suits his style. Supersport world champion, he always carries good corner speed. That's why he's up there in the second row of the grid. Front row here last year. He was very sick all the way through January, but he's been able to come back here in Phillip Island and be very strong.
Toprak Razgatlioglu, Mr. Consistency. Last year posted an incredible 33 podiums from 36 races, bettered his 22 points total, but the wins dried up. 14 in 2022, just 7 in 23, 5 of those in the shorter Superpole race. So the reigning world number 2 has placed his bet on BMW to take him back to the top. Completing the second row of the grid, Andrea Locatelli, the former Moto2 man, now in his 5th season in the World SBK paddock, won the Supersport title in 2020 with 12 wins in 15 races, and in 3 seasons since with Pata Yamaha in the top flight, he's taken 2 4th places and a 5th. Partner Toprak Razgatlioglu, he now has Jonathan Ray alongside him.
For we are one and free, who golden soul and wealth and toil, how home is good by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, our beauty rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains and let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Season 37 of the Motul FIM Superbike World Championship. This is the 35th Grand Ridge Brewery Australian round, and a legendary venue as well that's hosted all but 2 of those Australian rounds here at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. We're building up towards race 1 of this 2024 season, and this is the reigning world champion, Alvaro Bautista, the oldest rider in the field at 39 years of age, and the man they've all got to stop. 3 seasons with Ducati, really should have been 3 world titles. He threw 2019 away from a 61-point lead, but he's made up for it since his return from Honda to the Bologna-based manufacturer. Back-to-back crowns for Alvaro Bautista.
Yeah, and for Bautista, obviously with the pit stops in this race, takes away some of his advantage here in Phillip Island, but he'll still certainly expect to be right there at the front. Had a bad injury, and it's taken him time to get himself up to speed. Let's see how he does in this room.
So here's row number 3, Remy Gardner, Sam Lowes and Alvaro Bautista. Gardner starting P7, the 2021 Moto2 world champion. Steadily went about his business in his rookie Superbike season. Really started to prove himself in the last 5 rounds or so in particular. And if he continues that trajectory, he could well climb from 9th in last year's rankings. Sam Lowe's back racing in the World SBK paddock for the first time since he was crowned Supersport World Champion in 2013. He's since had a 10-year spell in the Grand Prix paddock, reached as high as third in Moto2 with Mark VDS, a team that's won no less than 3 world titles. Something of a coup for the championship that they're here with him.
Yeah, massive for World SBK to bring in a team like that that's had so much success and wants to put the resources into their Superbike program as well. So they're going to be one to watch all the way through the season.
Some question marks over Alvaro Bautista's race fitness. As you said, he's dealing with that left shoulder injury, all stemmed from a high side in the Jerez test after the last round of 2023. Bautista struggled through a MotoGP wildcard with nerve damage, admitted he hasn't had the laps during the winter without thinking about that discomfort. And the full race distance here is certainly going to be the acid test for him. Row number 4, Michael Ruben Rinaldi, Jonathan Rea and Danilo Petrucci. Michael Ruben Rinaldi now into his 7th season in World SBK, but he was among the last riders confirmed for 2024. He moves to Moto Corsa to replace the departing Axel Bassani. With respect, a bit of a step back after 3 seasons in the factory team, but that was his best shot at competitive machinery for this year. It's time to talk about Jonathan Rea, Kawasaki's greatest ever rider over the last 9 years. 221 podiums from 273 races, 39 poles and 104 wins. But from 13 victories in 2021, 6 in 2022, just 1 last year in mixed conditions, and it's that downward trend that's been the trigger for his late career move at the age, remember, of 37. And after a 15-year career with only 2 manufacturers, Jonathan Rea makes his debut with Yamaha here. Danilo Petrucci alongside him on row number 4, starting from P12, the Italian, veteran of a 10-year MotoGP career, which saw him take 10 podiums, including 2 wins. He's proven himself a versatile motorcyclist, competing in the Dakar Rally and Moto America before landing back where it all began at Barni Ducati. He made his Superbike debut here a year ago. Row number 5, Xavi Vierge, Honda's latest podium finisher. That was the 2nd round of 2023, his only trip to the rostrum in 72 Superbike races. The 26-year-old arrived in World SBK after 7 seasons in Moto2, was a podium finisher here in Phillip Island back in 2018, statistically his best Grand Prix season.
Yeah, his 3rd year on the bike now, 3rd year in the paddock. This is where you need to see that little bit more, not only for him, obviously Honda into the 5th year of that program, they need to make that big step, and then the riders can take advantage of it.
Garrett Gerloff moved to BMW last year and outscored established names Scott Redding and Loris Baz to finish top for the German manufacturer, 12th in the championship. 4 top 5 finishes in the last 4 rounds of 2023, though. His 6 podiums in the class, dating back to his 3 seasons with GRT Yamaha.
Yeah, and for Gerloff, led here on his debut in the class, but fell down the order a little bit. Its tyre wear became a big factor. That won't be a factor for him today, but the biggest issue is for the Bonovo team. They need to just find that little bit of a step, because the Rocket BMW bikes have had that advantage on them this week.
Axel Bassani, Kawasaki's new signing for 2024. Impossible to look at him as a direct replacement for Jonathan Rea, because he's yet to win a race in World SBK, but he has climbed steadily through the world rankings in 3 years with Moto Corsa, and there's little doubt that he's earned his factory ride. This will be the first time he's had a teammate in World SBK, so that's going to be a great point of reference.
Yeah, and for Bassani, important to get that experience as the factory rider and know what he needs to do now.
That's row number 5 then. Row 6 with Michael van der Mark, Bradley Ray and Philip Oertel. Van der Mark reunited with Toprak Razgatlioglu as teammates. The pair were together at Pata Yamaha in 2020. They were separated by just 5 points at the end of that championship. Van der Mark 6th overall with BMW in 2021. He's had a few big injuries since that double break in 2022 pre-season, then a violent crash in Estoril and the left femur fracture last year in Assen. He desperately needs a clean season.
Looks bad for Van der Mark to qualify so far down the field behind teammate Razgatlioglu. It looks like it's only Toprak that's made that step with BMW, but Van der Mark's been fast through the winter and through this weekend. A crash at turn 4 in his opening lap of the Superpole session meant that he had to ride a little bit conservative during the Superpole to try and just set a lap time. Half a second down on his teammate, he would have been closer.
Bradley Ray making his Phillip Island debut this weekend. Moto X Racing only took part in the European rounds last year, but Ray has fought for a full 2024 campaign, and he's got it. His rookie season, remember, interrupted by a shoulder injury just after he'd put in his best result of 6th place in Imola.
Yeah, said that this place just an amazing track, and trying to get yourself up to speed and know where you need to place the bike in different places takes a bit of time around this track, and for Brad it's about trying to make sure over the course of the weekend you make that step. The biggest issue for him, Philip Oertel, has been a little bit faster than through most of the weekend, so that's the battle you would expect to see between those two Yamaha riders.
Less than 5 minutes until we go racing here in Phillip Island. 22 riders from 10 different nationalities contesting race 1 of the Grandridge Brewery Australian Round. Steve, the Superbike lineup really does seem to go from strength to strength. 2 more big additions from the Grand Prix paddock for 2024 in Andrea Iannone and Sam Lowes, and the top 15 from last year all back, including our last 3 world champions, Bautista, Razgatlioglu and Ray, who finished in that order for the last 2 years. And some new names to give them a challenge this weekend. Is this World SBK's greatest ever lineup? The top 15 riders from last season, including the 3 men who've taken the last 9 world titles between them. 2 new additions from the MotoGP paddock and a new top team, plus the newly graduated Supersport World Champion. 23 riders on the permanent entry list, 19 FIM golds, 9 Superbike world titles, 6 in Supersport, 2 in Moto2,